Welcome to Black Belt Leader. I'm Karen Gately, founder of Corporate Dojo. On today's show, we're going to be talking about the work Christmas party. If you've spent any time in a leadership role or an HR role, you'll know that this time of year can be quite a challenging time to make sure that everyone's safe and that certainly our professional reputations are intact at the end of the festive season. So we've invited two guests to come on today and share their advice and their views. To start with, we're going to be joined by Glen Bartlett, who is the director of Bartlett Workplace, as well as the president of the Melbourne Football Club. And Glen's going to be here talking about some of the things he's seen from a legal perspective and what we need to be aware of and mindful as leaders. Then we're going to be joined by Cameron Shepherd. Cameron is an experienced HR director and heads up Shape HR. And Cam will then help us to understand, what we can do from an HR perspective to make sure that we're running a great event, everyone is safe, but also obviously leveraging the opportunity to build relationships, etc. So hopefully we've got some interesting stories ahead, some examples to share about how you can make sure it's both a great but safe and successful event. So on that note, welcome to the show, Glen. Really grateful to have you here.
Thanks, Karen. Great to be here.
Very excited to let our viewers know that you have agreed to be our resident employment lawyer guru and come back on a regular basis and help us all to understand as leaders where our obligations lie. And so obviously we thought we'd kickstart with the Christmas party. And look, I'd be really grateful if you give us a bit of insight to,
Sure.
Just as a starting point, what employers need to be thinking about around the Christmas party. Where are some of the real danger zones? What are some of the things that can go wrong?
Yeah, thanks, Karen. Look, sometimes people think that Christmas parties or work functions are not work, they're a private sort of function, and people can sort of behave differently when in fact they are a work function. Generally what happens will be in the course of the employee's employment, so workers' comp applies, but also in terms of the normal conduct rules around having a workplace that's free of bullying, sexual harassment and so forth. It's really critical that those standards are applied and people are reminded in advance about the fact that it's a work function and those normal rules.
And where those boundaries are.
Yeah,
I was discussing this actually on radio recently, and one of the hosts asked me, he said, okay, well, we don't normally drink in the workplace. Should we not drink when we go to the Christmas party? My advice to him was, well, clearly we're able to participate in the party, but it's then how do we actually behave? Can you give us some examples or insights to when people have made mistakes and stepped across the line and it's cost them either their career or obviously from an employer's perspective, cost them in other ways?
Yeah, sure. So, alcohol needs to be obviously served responsibly, and management keep an eye on that as well, having somebody responsible. There have been, we've been involved in a lot of investigations matters where there's been sexual harassment at a Christmas party, there's been physical altercations. Where the line can get blurred sometimes is at what point the Christmas party work function stops. So if there's an after party or they kick on somewhere else to a pub or bar, there's been some incidents. So it's really important from an employer point of view to make it clear, where that stops. Also, if you're allowing alcohol to be served, making sure that employees have a safe passage home by providing cab vouchers or the like. So there have been, again, employees have had an accident, been intoxicated, been told not to drive, where they've had an accident on the way home, where in that particular case it was determined not to be part of their employment, but it's very important the employee is clear about that. So obviously with alcohol being a social function, there's been a number of different examples. We had one investigation, one matter where a senior male exec was sexually harassed by a senior female employee, and the employer hadn't properly investigated that and applied different rules, which is a mistake.
Do you find that's common? Because again, I've certainly had those conversations where it's been a male putting his hand up saying, I'm really uncomfortable with this behaviour, and in my experience there hasn't been an adequate response. It's been almost taken as though you shouldn't be complaining, you're a bloke, what's the issue? And I've heard employers actually say, oh well, if it was a woman, we'd take it very seriously. How often do you see that?
Oh, we've certainly had one matter like that, which involved in fact ironically a law firm.
Right.
who should have known a lot better. I mean, look, typically, it's important to remind employers that, those same rules apply. Not gender-based. Don't make any assumptions. If there is an incident, properly investigate it as if it happened at work.
In the workplace,
because there is that sufficient connection between that event and the workplace. I mean, some of the cases have been a bit extreme, where an employee participates in an activity or kicks onto a motel room and gets injured, as to where the employment stops, and where the courts have talked about employees going off on a frolic of their own. So have they gone off on a frolic of their own, or is this something that's been encouraged by activity been encouraged by the employer?
And I think you're referring to quite a famous case there around the individual who was at a conference, I believe, and went to a hotel room with somebody that they had invited to be with them. Things got a little out of hand, and something fell off the roof and hit off the wall and hit them in the head, and that employee went for compensation.
Yeah, correct. And it went all the way to the High Court, and in the end, I think the principle's quite sensible, that just because you're there for work doesn't mean everything that happens in the course of your employment. So if it's an activity that's been encouraged or incited by the employer, then it would be in the course of employment. In that case, it was sexual activity in a motel room. So whilst the employee was encouraged to be at the conference, the motel room, that activity hadn't been incited or encouraged by the employer, so it was deemed to effectively be the employees gone off on a frolic of their own. It didn't happen in the course of their employment. Yeah, thank goodness. So you can think of an extreme example. If it was a Christmas party, or it was a picnic, and employees decide to go parachuting, and something happened, that would be their decision to partake in that activity. But if the employers organised it, that would be a continuation of the employment relationship. So it's very important for employers in advance to think through these issues and be very clear about the arrangements around the Christmas party, when it ends, what happens post it, transport home, etc., etc.
And that's key, isn't it? That to formally say, okay, the party is now at a close, informs everybody that you're now on your own time. Clearly we can still care that you take care of yourself and one another, but ultimately we have given you notice that the party is over, and therefore it's on your own watch in terms of your safety. I've had a couple of clients where they've made decisions at that point that I think have been quite scary, and I just want to test from your perspective how nervous you would be. So I had one client where the bar was formally closed. A highly intoxicated young woman was demanding she wanted another drink, and the CEO actually went and asked for the bar to be reopened so she could continue to drink. If something had happened around that young woman's health and safety, how nervous would you be on behalf of the CEO?
Oh, look, I think again, in terms of that being employer sponsored, that's going to be deemed to be in the course of employment. So if anything goes wrong, there'll be an issue there. And there was a case where in the end the employer got in a bit of strife because the employees were serving themselves alcohol, and they didn't have somebody that was responsible for management to ensure that party finishes, people are safe, gone home, etc., etc. They left their own devices, so that brought the employer undone. And I think really not just an email. A lot of employers just send an email in advance, but thinking about do we also make sure the leaders in their team meetings, toolbox meetings, just remind employees about when the party ends and finishes, and the expectations around behaviour, and the fact that everyone there is entitled to be free of harassment, enjoy the night. It's a work function. Same rules apply. We'll treat it seriously.
So in terms of that preparation, making sure as employers we're doing everything we can to avoid the risks and obviously ultimately bad things happening. So what I've heard you say is let's educate our people, let's talk to them in advance. I've also heard you say let's make someone responsible. Let's put someone in charge of making sure we're supervising people, and again, someone's going to take action if things are going off track. Are there other steps you think that employers can take or should take, either prior or during the evening, to again manage risk?
Look, I think having somebody there responsible, I think making sure your leaders are reminded and everyone's reminded in advance of the expectations, and not just by sending an email, because sometimes people don't read emails, or you want to make sure it's really clearly understood.
Yeah.
And that if something does happen, treat it seriously and follow it up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we don't have this culture of, sort of anything goes at a Christmas party, and we might say this and send an email out, but we actually don't treat it seriously. So if something happens, we have actually properly investigate it.
Yeah.
It's balancing it, and I don't want to get into the HR side of it really, but it's balancing it with, we want to celebrate Christmas and making it a fun event for our staff.
Absolutely.
That's why we're doing it.
Yeah.
So I feel a bit like the Grinch pointing out all these issues.
Exactly. But necessary.
But it's necessary because we do see regularly things that happen at work functions, and serious matters end up in investigations, and a lot of people think about sexual harassment, that's one aspect, but bullying, physical altercations, and where there's alcohol involved, the employer needs to make sure they're right across all of their responsibilities.
Yeah.
The other thing that's happening a lot around in the safety space and workplace bullying space is individuals, key people, directors, key management being sued individually.
Okay.
So it's important from that aspect as well.
Yeah.
That all appropriate steps are taken in advance on the night and following up as well.
Yeah. Well, great advice. Thank you. Very much appreciate all of that. I guess if there was one thing that I would sum it up by saying to leaders out there is, let's make sure we're on duty. When we're at the Christmas party, of course we want to have fun. Of course we want to let our own hair down, and we want to enjoy our colleagues in the evening or daytime event, whatever it might be. But let's make sure that we're leading by example, that we're actually demonstrating what it looks like to have a great time, and to stay safe and to stay respectful and in the lines of, within the boundaries of the law. So thank you again for being here on today's show, and we'll very much look forward to having you back to talk about other aspects of employment law that no doubt leaders can benefit from.
No worries. Thanks, Karen. Again. It's been a pleasure. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Okay. So we're going to go for a short break, and when we're back, we'll be joined by Cameron Shepherd at Shape HR.
This is Ticker.
Hi, I'm Ali Tarai, host of Future Sport, and you're watching Ticker.
Welcome back to Black Belt Leader. We're now joined by Cameron Shepherd at Shape HR. Welcome to the show, Cam.
Thank you for having me, Karen.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you here. Cam is somebody who works very closely with the corporate Dojo team, and so we're especially excited to invite him to share his views on the Christmas party. So clearly, we were just talking to Glen about all the things that can go wrong, all of the reasons why employers need to be well planned and communicating with people, supervising, making sure that everyone's playing nicely, keeping it tidy, staying safe. My first question to you, Cam, is given with all that risk and the things that can go wrong, is it even worth having the Christmas party? Should we be cancelling it and keeping ourselves safe?
I think really, if it's just for the sake of having one, then probably not.
Yeah.
But if we're putting in the planning and really being thoughtful as to what we're doing, then it's a really great way to put a full stop on the year.
Yeah.
We get caught up throughout the year being busy.
Yeah.
And I think to be able to stop and reflect and show appreciation for our employees, it can be a really good thing.
Yeah. Look, I totally agree. I've actually seen a leader cancel Christmas one year. It wasn't funny, but it was kind of funny. Literally sent out a note saying, oh, look, things are too crazy, it's too busy, we don't have time to stop. And literally used the words, we're cancelling Christmas. How do you think that's likely to go down?
Not well.
No.
Not well, particularly if there's been some communication and an expectation that there is going to be a Christmas do. It is something that employees look forward to every year. It is a chance for them to let their hair down and quite often in different industries and organisations, an opportunity to speak to people that they're not normally speaking to and to really mingle with people from all levels of the organisation. So it's probably not a great thing. When
we're giving advice to individuals about the danger zones again and how to behave in the Christmas party, I mean, clearly my advice typically is don't fall over, don't throw up, and don't get naked, right? if you manage to avoid those things, you're likely to be okay. What are some of the positive things that people can be doing at the Christmas party without turning into a marketing crazy person and self-promoting?
Sure.
But how can we actually leverage it to our advantage or the team's advantage?
Yeah. It's really, when I think of Christmas do's, I think of them as being a career killer or a career connector. And if we're thinking about the positive in being a connector, it's about building relationships, starting to build relationships with people that we don't normally associate with. It's a great opportunity to speak to people from all levels of the organisation and really be interested in what the company's doing and the direction that they're going in. It's a great opportunity to show where you're interested in, so projects and areas of work that others might not be aware that you're interested in.
It's an opportunity just to have the casual chat, they get to know you, build a bit of rapport, explore what individuals do in the business.
Absolutely, and I think that's where the real value can come in terms of your career. Like you say before, it's obviously got to be tempered with oversharing and making sure that the topics are they're going to be not just. I suppose it's not about just being safe, but useful for both parties.
Exactly, and again, I'm sure with your experience, you could point to loads of examples of when people behave in ways that don't serve them. Can you think? Do any come to mind right now of things you've seen people do that were just, one of those career killers?
Yeah, absolutely, and it seems often the amount of CEOs and business leaders that have come to me as an HR consultant or leader after the party and said, why every year do I get asked for a pay rise at Christmas do? So being asked for pay rises and why Sally got the promotion ahead of you, probably not the wisest. That it's a good opportunity to set up meetings potentially to have some of those conversations that you want to have. But in the moment, in front of a full bar, probably not the right time.
Judgment. I've had a CEO call me on the Monday morning and say, okay, well, I got some pretty constructive feedback from a member of the team, and the team member didn't exactly deliver it in a polite and respectful way. What do I do with that now? So again, endless examples of where people's judgment has not quite been where it seemed to be. So let's take it back to leaders. And somebody is behaving badly at the Christmas party, they're having a go, they're getting aggressive, they're starting arguments, whatever it might be. What are some of the things leaders can do in that moment to address the issue?
Well, I think have prior planning for it. So is there going to be security on, is there a danger of physical altercation or basically if people's health and safety is in jeopardy, we need to have thought prior how we're going to handle that. So is there a designated person that's going to be responsible? Are HR there as mediators to be able to step in? But a quick exit strategy to be able to get people away from what might be putting other employees or themselves in danger is really important. Not just turning a blind eye. We just won't look, we'll just pretend like this is not going on. Absolutely, we need to call it out, and if we've done the prior work, then it's signposting to what we've already said and what we've already communicated, and then making a note that it will be picked up when we're all in the right state to be able to speak about it and manage it.
Yeah, and again, you know, as we said at the start, it is a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity for employers and employees, obviously, and around building those connections, building those relationships, exploring where the opportunities are. But again, as we're saying, we need to also keep it tidy, keep it safe. So, you know, again, when you see the causes of issues, obviously we've got alcohol being served to excess. You know, in my experience, I think that's probably the biggest one, where people, you know, start to be a different version of themselves. And there are other contributing factors where you see people start to, you know, go down paths that they shouldn't.
I think having structured activities,
yes.
so having something other than a focus on alcohol,
drinking, exactly,
is going to be that really sets you up for success, and the Christmas do up for success.
Yeah.
So not having an absence of that, without any structure, people not really understanding how the night is going to, or afternoon's going to go down, I think that can lead to trouble as well.
Agree.
And you look at the reasons why people drink alcohol, and some of it might be boredom or anxiety themselves. So that lack of structure, I think, contributes as well to some of those problems that you've spoken about.
So what are some of the structured things we can do? Because obviously as a leader, I might be sitting there thinking, I don't know, you know, it's just easier to just go to a local restaurant, put on some good food, put on some, you know, drinks. What else have you seen leaders do that you think are great ideas for the Christmas party?
So one of the things that I've experienced as an employee and run something similar as an HR manager is to have some sort of challenge. So to have some sort of amazing race where there's a series of challenges, be they sort of logical puzzles or physical activities. Obviously bearing in mind that if we've got serving alcohol, we want to make sure
keep
we keep it safe.
Yeah.
But to have some sort of challenge where people are working in groups with people that they don't necessarily work with, that works really well.
Yeah.
I think the other important thing is to think that we don't always have to have the answers. So if we're putting out, for example, a poll to the employees, a list of sort of 3 or 4
get
options.
those ideas flowing.
To see what they would want to do themselves. And there's Google's a wonderful thing as well. So being able to go there and there's so many there's organisations that can prepare it on your behalf as well and do it really nicely and make sure that all of those things that we've spoken about, to make sure that it's a health and safe environment. Then it's taken care of.
Yeah, it's great. And again, I've seen loads of examples where employers have built those activities into it, and I totally agree. You know, it can absolutely build those relationships or be part of building connections with people that don't normally work together. But it also, you know, keeps people focused, keeps them entertained, keeps them hopefully not drinking quite as fast. You know, one of the things that I would add to that is, you know, making sure we're giving people food early. I think, you know, for me, that's probably the one that really stands out in my mind, is people hit the party, the grog's free, the food's free, and we just go hard, but often the food comes later. So by the time the food's arriving, people have got 2, 3, you know, maybe more drinks under their belt and really struggling just to stand up straight, let alone, you know, engage effectively.
Absolutely. And I'd probably add to that to have non-alcoholic options early and presented in a way that people know it's there, not to have to go and find it. I think that can be a good option as well.
I actually had one client many years ago, and you know, it worked to varying degrees, but they actually bought a whole bunch of water bottles, and they actually had a competition to see which team could make sure they've consumed all of their water bottles by the end of the night, and there was a prize. And that was literally just about saying, an alcoholic drink, back it up with some water, you know, and again, just helping people to remember that, you know, we do want to keep it tidy. We don't want to destroy our professional reputation, and we certainly don't want to end up in you know, harming ourselves or other people. So there's lots of fun ways we can kind of encourage that responsible drinking as well.
Absolutely. Make the healthy options easy.
So what's your advice to people who really dread the Christmas party? They really don't want to go. I mean, it's very easy for extroverts like us to sit here and go, it's great, you know, you get to meet everyone, get to build connections. What happens if that's your worst nightmare? And you really don't want to be there?
And I think that the employer's really got a responsibility to think of those things as well, and to make sure that there are options. You know, group work is fantastic for that, to be able to encourage people in small bite-sized pieces to interact with people. But yeah, I think it's to think about what potentially can be gained from you going to that Christmas party, and who is it. Arrive with someone that you know and that you're familiar with. That can be a great starting point, I think, because it is a shame that if people are just missing what should be a really awesome way to end the year through nerves and anxiety. Absolutely.
Fantastic. And look, you know, the final thing that I would add is it's really think about our demographic. You know, leaders will often say to me, what type of party should I put on? I'm like, well, what type of people are we talking about? And I know certainly as a former HR director, you know, we would vary it. One year it would be a family-friendly function. Next year it would be, you know, more of a nightclub kind of event for people who really want to go and do that. So yeah, again, really appreciate you sharing all of those examples, insights, because I do agree. I think it's an important event to have. I think it's a great opportunity to say thank you. I think it's a great opportunity, as you've pointed out, to build those connections. But as Glen very wisely pointed out as well, there's a whole bunch of risk areas that we need to manage. So let's keep doing it, but let's keep doing it well. So again, thanks Cam, really appreciate you being on the show today.
Thank you very much, Karen. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So that's all we have today on Black Belt Leader. Appreciate you watching. If there are topics that you would like to hear us talk about, invite guests on to cover, please don't be shy, get in touch. You can do that obviously through our social media channels. See you next time.
This is Ticker, your new source for news.